everyone, and welcome to episode 31 of Down the Hobbit Hole. Today is January the 10th, I think it's a Wednesday, and this is my weekly podcast about knitting and spinning and all things making. I'm coming to you today from my craft room in East Tennessee, where I live with my husband, my fluffy pup and cat, and all of our crazy chickens. And yeah, if you want to find us online, I'll have all that information probably floating up the screen over here. And so definitely check it out. And yeah, I think it's been a while, so I think we can go ahead and just get straight into all the crafting and stuff. Well, I guess I should say Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. And I'll go into more of this, why it's been so long since I recorded it, towards the end. We had some interesting things pop up around Christmas. So, but I'll keep that in the live stuff. We'll have that at the end of the podcast. So if you're not really interested, you don't have to stay through it. Today I'm drinking one of those Alpine packets of apple cider. And I threw some ice in it so it'd be nice and cool. And it's in my favorite little IKEA cup. I think the only thing I don't like about this cup is it's a little too small, but I use it anyways because it's so pretty. Alright, so this year, what I really wanted to do, I didn't set any kind of resolution really this year. I know a lot of people start of the year, it's all about the resolutions, but what I want to do is make sure that I have time to unwind. I am 21 weeks. I think I'm at the end of 20 weeks pregnant. So I'm going to have, at the end of May, I'll have a little boy. So, and he's my first. So I'm trying to make sure that I have a way to unwind during nap times and just if I get up extra early in the morning so that I can have some me time. And on what I've been doing towards that is spinning more. So here are some finished yarns that I have. So this is a yarn that I've had on the bobbin for a very long time. And part of what I was trying to do was clear out all the things that have been sitting on my bobbins for the past year. I don't think I have anything older than that, but yeah, so clearing off the bobbins is going really well so far. Here is my first one, and it is so pretty. I love this bat, or the way this bat spun up, and it's, there we go. All these greens and browns, there's some tan, lots of sparkle, and these big poofy border luster locks. I don't know my yardage, and as you can see, I think you can see it easiest from the side. I wasn't spinning for consistency, so it's all over the place, and I'm very okay with that. I did a simple, I just caked up the single and spun it back on itself. Really easy peasy and mindless. And I so love it. I think the fiber content in here, I think there's merino, Corriedale, a tiny bit of Gotland wool. There's bamboo, border luster locks, fire star. I think that's it. I could be wrong. But I haven't blocked it, or I haven't soaked it yet, because once you finish spinning a yarn, you're supposed to put it onto your niddy noddy, soak it, and hang it up to dry. I don't weight my yarns because I don't want them to, with a yarn, a lot of spinners, if they've put in a lot of twist into their yarn, and when they take it off the niddy noddy, use this as an example. Okay. So this yarn came out pretty even, and I'll talk about this one in a minute, but See, it just hangs straight. Sometimes when you take your yarn off the nitty knotty, it will twist on itself because there's a lot of energy in the yarn. It's been maybe a little bit overspun, which sometimes you're trying to do. Sometimes you want that. And sometimes you do want, sometimes you're doing that for a reason. And what some people will do when they didn't do it on purpose is they will weigh down their yarn when it's hanging up to dry. So when it dries, it's nice and straight. But I don't want to do that because if I do that, I might go to knit with it. And then once I block whatever I'm knitting, all that energy gets back into the yarn and it could skew the stitches or just do things that I wasn't anticipating. So I don't weigh down my yarns. I have heard it's a really cool technique if you add extra twist, weigh it down so that it's nice and straight, and then weave with it so that when you block it, it scrunches up your weaving. Haven't tried it. Sounds cool, so I'd like to try it at some point. But for now, that's all I do is put a little conditioner in the sink, fill it up, and let the yarn soak, and then I hang it up over the tub to dry, or I'll hang it outside if it's out of the single digits, which usually it is in Tennessee. This past week it hasn't been, but yeah. So that's all it needs. It just needs to be soaked. I just don't know where my nitty knotty is because we've been doing some serious destashing of the entire house, clearing out a lot of clutter to get the nursery ready. So I know I haven't gotten rid of my nitty knotty. I just don't know where it is. So once I find it, I'll be able to do that. Worst comes to worst, I'll wind it on like the coffee table or something and just slide it off and soak it that way. So another yarn that I've been working on is this one. And this is all grays and blues and like stormy gray purples, and most of what this bat was made of was waste from my drum carder. So with my drum carder there are two drums. There's the big drum that the bat goes onto, and then there's the little drum that helps move the fibers on, but it also takes a lot of waste off. And there's nothing wrong with the fiber. Sometimes it's just a bit short, or it's just stuff piles up. If you push down too hard on the fiber, sometimes it'll stick onto the little drum. But for whatever reason, I had a lot of waste when I was working on a lot of blue bats. So I took all the waste and carded it together with a little bit of white alpaca and spun it up. And you can see, once again, there's all kinds of thicknesses on here. It's nice and thin, nice and thick. And instead of plying this back on itself, because I didn't have a lot of yardage, I just went ahead and held a strand of silver thread. And I think it's some kind of lurex. I got it at one of the sales at Hook and Needle last year. Christy had a bin of just yarn bits, like they'd used part of a skein or something like that. And I found it in there, and I thought, oh, that'd be great for plying. And as it turns out, it was. So I'm really happy with the way that turned out, too. This one has not been soaked or hung. I finished this past weekend. I went to Gatlinburg with a couple of ladies, and we just hung out in a cabin and spun and knit. One of them, Christy from Hook and Needle, she actually got her first spinning wheel, or her first really functioning spinning wheel. The first one she got, unfortunately, it looked like a decorative wheel that someone had tried to make spin. And I mean, technically I think you could make yarn on it, but it wasn't for a beginner, and it wasn't going to be enjoyable. So she wound up getting another wheel at the Smoky Mountain Spinnery over in Gatlinburg, which was really cool. We had a lot of fun there. But I needed to get that off of my wheel, so I just used my arm and just wrapped it around a couple times, and it seems to be working so far. I may end up doing that with my other yarns if I can't find my nitty knotty, but I'm sure it'll turn up. It's here somewhere. I think it might be in the nursery in the armoire we're going to fix up. But we have this gigantic, it's called a pelican case. My husband has it from when he was in the Army, and it's this massive plastic lockdown box, and I don't know what's in it, but it is way too heavy for me to move. So I need to remember to ask Tim to scoot it out of the way so I can open up the armoire. Find my nitty knotty. While we were there, I wanted to test out, in Gatlinburg, I wanted to test out a bat that I've made recently using a silk hanky. So typically with a silk hanky, you're going to pre-draft it and spin the silk straight from the hanky. You don't have to pre-draft it, that's just the recommendation I've seen a lot, is either dizzing it by pulling it through a small hole to get everything uniform, or just stretching and stretching and stretching until it's about the diameter. It's larger than the diameter you want to spin because it's going to get much finer when you spin it. But what I did was I took a rotary cutter and sliced it up into little like 1-inch pieces and just fed it on top of the drum carder with the bat. So I wanted to see how that would turn out, and it's actually really cool. So this is a bat that I spun, out of my electric sheep bat. And right there, let's see if I can do this, right there, that is some of the bat, or some of the silk hanky. So you can see there's plenty of bamboo and fire star and lots of blue wool, and it's so pretty. I love this. I really think I want to make a hat out of it. I don't have a pattern for that, so I'm gonna have to make one up, but I think it'll be okay if I just follow. I'll get like the basic wraps per inch and kind of guesstimate the size, and then knit a not so fitted kind of slouchy-ish hat. Really basic, because I want it to show off this yarn and show off the different chunks that are in here of different colors, different textures, and I think it really will. I don't think it's coming across very well, but there's all this teal bamboo. No, it looks like it's all blue. You can't really see all of the colors. Once I get this skeined up, I'll show it off again. Or maybe I'll just show you as I'm knitting it all the different colors that are in here. And they're all in shades of blue, blues, teals, things like that. But I had about 3 ounces of this, I think. And so what I did was I bought at the Spinnery, I bought a couple of cones of Lunatic Fringe, and it's the labels on the inside. Lunatic Fringe Tubular Spectrum, and this is number 10 blue-green. It's a 10-2 mercerized cotton, and it's a very pretty teal. It's actually about the same color as the bamboo that I used, and it's much shinier than I expected from mercerized cotton. So let me see if I can... Well, you can see some of it. I'll put the link to the Smoky Mountain Spinnery, Fringe, anything I talk about, you'll be able to find down below. So this is Lunatic Fringe. I picked up a couple of colors. I also got number 5 yellow and number 10 purple. So these are all going to be for plying. I may not do just the single with the thread held. I think with this one I've got a pink bat in mind that has some purples and reds in it, and I'm probably going to fold it over and hold it double with a strand of this. So it'll be a 3-ply, but just give it a little extra purple pop in there. So that's the plan for these. I'm very happy I found these because I really want plying thread, but I don't want to buy like an entire pound of one color, or like a cone that's like 3 pounds of just one color of sparkly thread. So I'm really glad I found those, because I think I paid like $9 and you're getting about I think it winds up being about 400 yards. So that's, for the thickness that I spin when I'm going to use something like that, that's at least 2 skeins that I'll be able to apply. So yes, I'm very happy with all of this. And I need to go back to the Spinnery and get more of that because they have such a great selection of colors. They have like whole rainbow packs of those cones, and you can get ones that are much heftier. So if I find a color that I really like that works well with other yarns, I may end up buying more of a specific color, but for now I enjoy playing with the little bits. So, let's see. And if you see me looking this way, I've got my camera casting over here so that I can talk to you here with the backside camera for my phone, because it zooms in a lot easier than the front facing. So it's definitely a much better camera. And then I think the only other spinning that I finished is this little guy. And I found this underneath the green yarn that I was spinning. So I'd started it a really long time ago, and what I was doing was, and I think I may have actually talked about it on the podcast, I was taking it was from Michaels. I think it's called Loops and Threads Cozy Wool, and it's like 50% wool, 50% acrylic. And so it's a super bulky, a lot like Lion Brand Thick and Quick, if you've ever used that. And I was just pulling it into pieces and then separating the 2-ply and using it like pencil roving. So that, I didn't really enjoy it. It spun easily enough, but I think I'm using the wrong wheel, because I was using my kind of go-to travel wheel, but I think this is a project for the wheel my husband built me on the cast iron sewing machine base. So I think I might try it again in the future. But for right now, I have my little sample, and I think that I'll just knit it up, see how I feel about it. It's probably just going to sit in my hand spun stash for a while until I figure out what exactly I want to do with it. But, or if I even want to spin it again. It might end up in some weaving project or some scrappy project, but who knows. But on the topic of spinning, I did want to start something in February, and what I want to do is a spin along for the rest of the year. So, well, at least 6 months. I want to see if people are still enjoying it after 6 months, but I need to get more spinning done this year. We're going to be making lots of bats for MistyMountMakers, which is our yarn and fiber business. But we're going to, because I can't dye yarn as easily with a baby, because I can't have him outside with me while I'm dyeing, because I can't get like a baby respirator for him. So what we're going to do, I'll still be dyeing yarn when Tim's home and he can watch the baby while I'm outside. I'll still be able to dye yarn, and I can do big batches. So, but I'll be making lots of bats because I can definitely do that with the baby, or at least I think so. Never had a baby before, so my plans will probably change. I'm trying to keep things open. Oh, I think we're getting a delivery. Okay, sorry about that. So, yes, I want to spin as much as possible, not only for my own sanity, but also because I want to develop new textures and just kind of expand the bats that I have available, so that, I don't know, if you want something really, really textured, you're going to get it, and it's going to be great, and I'm going to have tested it, and that kind of thing. I just want to kind of delve into it a little more. So I'm going to be spending this year spinning like crazy, and I'd like for you guys to join me. So what I'm going to do is I will, starting February 1st, we're going to do a spin along in the group, and I'll open a chatter thread now so that people can show off, what they're making now, what they're trying to get off the bobbins to get ready for the spin along starting on the 1st. And we'll have the chatter thread for talking, showing off fiber, inspiring each other, showing great deals that we found online, stuff like that. And then, what are you doing, Duber? You gonna come bump the tripod? No. Yeah, that seems like Tesla. Sorry, we got a puppy interruption here. Yeah, you're like 3. You're not a puppy anymore. Get out of here. So we'll have the chatter thread, and then we'll also have a finished objects thread. So once you finish spinning your yarn, you can go ahead and post it. And I was leaning towards a 100 gram minimum for each entry, and that's about 3.75 ounces. So that, because I think that's, you know, 100 grams or 4 ounces are the usual sizes you see for roving. But with bats, sizes can be all over the place. So I don't think, we'll see. Let me know what you think. At the same time, it's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be something where you're struggling to finish a huge amount of yarn that you wouldn't normally spin. It's just supposed to get us spinning. So, not sure about the weight requirements just yet. Let me know what you think. But, yeah, we'll have the finished objects thread. So once you're finished, you'll post your picture there. And you're more than welcome to post it in the chatter thread as well, so people can comment on it and say how much they like it, you know, ask about your colors and stuff like that. Since the finished objects thread, I'm going to ask for no chatter, just to make it easier for me to draw. But at the end of the month, I will draw a winner from the finished objects thread, and there will be prizes. So, yeah, it's just, not only will there be the fun and the community of having a spin along, but there will be prizes too. So hopefully that'll help keep everybody motivated. I am also adding a secondary thread, a secondary finished objects thread. So if you have some of my fiber, MistyMountMakers, in your stash, or if you want to pick some up from MistyMountMakers.com, you can spin one of our bats or our roving, and then post that not only in the finished objects thread, but also in the MistyMountMakers finished objects thread. So that what I didn't want to do is give people 2 entries towards the 1 prize for the finished objects thread, because I feel like that can dilute the pool a little bit, I guess. Like, I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to have a finished objects thread for whatever fiber you want, and you can post there. Any finished objects that anybody has can be posted there, MistyMountMakers or otherwise. And then we'll have a finished objects thread that's just for MistyMountMakers fiber. So feel free to double up in the 2 threads if you're spinning my fiber. So you have a chance to win a prize in the finished objects thread, and then you have another chance to win in the MistyMountMakers thread. That way you're still getting 1 entry per prize. And it also makes it a whole lot easier for me, rather than saying this post now gets you 2 entries, because I'd have to keep track of that, and it would get really difficult, and I would hate to overlook someone and not give them their actual chance to win at the end when I'm drawing for prizes. So yeah, and all of that will be in the thread, in the chatter thread, all laid out. So if you have any questions, definitely ask me, but check out the thread. I'll have a link below so you can kind of read through it and see what we're doing for the spin along. Even though the prizes will be given monthly, there's no requirement that you start and finish your yarn in February. Just, especially for the first month, try to be honest and don't post something that you only needed to spin like a 1/4 ounce of fiber or something like that. Actually have some spinning to do in February if you're going to post. But as far as the rest of the months go, if you started it after February 1st, post it whenever you finish it. Don't feel like you have to post it in February if you started in February. It's not a big deal. Just post what you can. Yeah, and I think that's that's pretty much everything for that. If you decide you want to participate, head over to the chatter thread and show us the fibers you're thinking of starting off with. If you're clearing off your bobbins, we'd love to see that too. And yeah, we can make it a lot of fun before the thing even starts. So now, we've got the spinning out of the way. I did get a couple of other things while I was at Smoky Mountain Spinnery, which if you haven't been there and you're going through Gatlinburg, definitely check it out. Or if you're in the Knoxville area, take a drive over. Really cool shop. They've got lots of great things. Spinning, rug hooking, weaving, probably a bunch of things that I didn't even see. They've got so many spinning wheels. They've got acrowork bobbins and spindles, and just, there's a lot of stuff going on there. It's great. So if you do any kind of fiber crafting, definitely check it out. But one of the things that I purchased is this. So this is for warping my loom, and you can see it's got the smaller hook on one end and the larger hook on the other, and you use this for threading through your heddles and your beater on the loom. So I've got quite a big warp going onto my loom soon, and I've got a friend coming over to help me, Madeline, and I figured this would make things a whole lot easier. It's still got a little residue from the sticker on here. I've got to wash that off. But I really like it. It's Harrisville Designs, and I think they sell a smaller version where it's only about maybe that long, and it's got the little hook on one end and the fat one on the other. But for that, and that's the one I was going to buy off of the Woolery, but when I got into the Spinnery and I saw this one, I had to have it because my loom's pretty big, and I'm sure having a nice long hook is going to make things a whole lot easier. Tim did make me a hook for threading through my heddles, but the problem is it's made out of wire, so it's kind of like a really long orifice hook. And I asked him, I gave him the design that I wanted, and he made it exactly the way that I asked for. But the problem is, since it's rounded, it will turn as I'm pulling it through the heddle. So with this, because it is so wide and flat, when I put it through, it won't be able to twist on me and get caught as I pull it through. I'm sure I'll still have a bit of a learning curve trying to thread things properly, but I'm not too worried about it. This is definitely going to make things a whole lot easier. So I picked up that, and then I also picked up, let me get it out of the itty bitty pouch I've been carrying it around in. I picked up a Brittany crochet hook, and it's made out of birch, and it's so pretty. This is a G, it's a 4mm, and here's the tip, and I absolutely love it. It's so pretty, and when I hold it, I tend to hold my crochet hook like this, so I've got a nice little rest for my pinky, and it doesn't get kind of slippery, and it just feels better in my hand than the metal hooks that I had did. So here's their label. Let me back it up a little bit. And I'm really happy I got it. It's very comfortable, and since I am working on a little granny stripe for the pickle, hopefully I'll have this done by the time he arrives in May, but I wanted to have a nice crochet hook to use with it, and it's coming along so well. I just started this Friday of last week, and I've been going through it pretty quickly. So here we go. I've been using a lot of the scraps, or not scraps, the minis that I had a couple in my stash, but Shirley, who was my swap partner, well, she sent my swap package for the Tiny Elements Christmas swap. She sent my package, and it was, I didn't bring it over here. She sent all my minis in a little cigar box, It was so cute. And when I was trying to feel all the packages to figure out what it was, I had no idea what I was getting. So thank you, Shirley. Most of those are going into this blanket except for a few colors, which I'm saving for other projects. But this, I'm really enjoying this. I'm not going to enjoy the ends that I'll have to weave in because I've been doing one color per row, but I think it's going to be worth it. I think I'm just going to have to stop at some point and weave in a bunch of ends so I can feel better about it, and I don't have to weave them all in at the end of the blanket. But I'm really, really enjoying how that's coming along. So if anybody wants to swap minis, I'm winding up some minis from yarn in my stash, from like if I just used a little bit for a project or if I had a chunk left over after making a pair of socks. I'm going to wind up all those fingering weight minis. If anybody wants to do a swap, let me know, and I will be happy to swap weight for weight. So yes, that option is out there. Just get in touch with me on Ravelry. It's linked down below, but my user ID is MistyMountMakers. MistyMountMakers. And I'd be very happy to hear from anyone who wants to do a swap for that. And then I think, I just got 2 more items to show you. I have been working on those socks that I've been showing you every single time I record, my Afterthought Everything socks. I'm not showing them today, but I did go back and I pulled out the needle, picked up stitches, and I'm redoing the cuff. So, because what I did was I started with a 2x2 twisted rib cuff, knitted the whole sock, and then without even checking, started doing a 1x1 twisted rib, which did not match. So, that, I think I have 14 more rows to go, and then that's done. It's going to get set aside, and eventually I will pick up toes and heels, but for right now, I just don't want to look at it. So I'll get it done, and it'll go into timeout for just a little bit. The other project I've been working on, whoops, is one that you guys have seen before, and it is my Brioche cowl. Oh, sorry. There we go. And you can see all the colors that are behind. Now this is my stitch marker from where I left off last time I recorded. And here's the other side. So a lot of these colors that you're seeing here are Miss Babs. She had samples at SAF, so I grabbed a bunch of them to try out her yarn because I've heard great things, but I've never actually gotten my hands on it, and I love it. Next year, if I make it out to SAF, definitely spending a lot of time and probably a lot of money in her booth, and it'll all be worthwhile. It'll be great. But here, there we go. This little section of blue here, that is Twist Fiber Studios. It's the Mother of Pearl colorway from Fiber in the Burrow. Sorry, Fiber in the Burrow. And I so love that yarn. I've been kind of sneaking it in on the back of my cowl in between different color groups, just kind of striping it in. I knew I didn't have enough from the samples to finish the whole thing, so that's why I've been kind of popping it in here and there. Right now, I'm working with, it's not Malabrigo Rios. I know it's a silk wool blend. It's a single. But I'm using that, and all this yarn on the outside is yarn that I got in a swap years ago. So it's a very scrappy project, but I cannot wait for it to be done. I think it's currently, Tim got me one of those really neat leather ruler bracelets for my birthday, and of course I left it. I took it off at night, or I took it off last night before I went to bed and tossed it on my nightstand, and so it's not on me now. But I think I'm at about 5 inches. Probably over, but we'll just say conservatively I'm at 5 inches. And I probably want to get it to 9. I'm not 100% sure about that, but we'll see. I was running low, moving the stitch marker. I was running low on the dark blue that I've been using, so that's why I switched on the outer color to this lighter blue. But I do want to go back to this color for the last, at least the last inch, and the little rolled hem. So yes, I'm really enjoying this. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to weave in these ends yet, because I haven't had to weave in ends for a brioche before, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. For right now, I'm just not worrying about it. I'm not looking at it. I'm not thinking about it. It'll come together in the end. So, and this, and I know I say this every time I show it, but I'm really surprised by how mindless brioche can be. I would be knitting on it. I have to look at it more than I do other knitting. So I'm trying not to work on it right now because I'm sure you guys don't want to see the top of my head for 90% of this recording. But I'm really happy with the way it's turning out, and I'm probably going to work on that tonight if I don't grab the baby blanket. So we'll see. And then my final finished object is my mittens. So here's one of them. Oh, and here's the other. Sometime before Christmas, Susan B. Anderson posted a pattern. She was using Knit Collage wool, which is the handspun yarn company. I'm sure there are other handspun yarn companies, but that's kind of one of the big ones. It's more commercial. Well, not commercial, but you can find it in yarn shops. You can find it online and everything. If you haven't heard of Knit Collage, definitely look it up. It's a pretty cool story. But I don't have any Knit Collage yarn, so I went and raided my handspun. And what I wound up doing was I took some of the yarn I got at the D-Stash from my spinning guild, which I think was in November, and I got a skein of handspun from there, and then I went through and pulled all of my like beginner yarns that I spun, and some of this is pretty cool. Like I've got a yarn in here from when Martha Owen came and taught a spinning class for the guild. I've got a couple of yarns in here that are spun from a Valentine's Day kit I bought when Tim and I were first dating back in Florida, and I've got some mohair. The only thing that wasn't hand spun was the mohair, but yeah, a lot of my beginner yarns found their way in here, and you can kind of see there are quite a few yarns going in there. A couple of pigtails sticking out. And this is, if you don't spin, this is what I mean by a pigtail. This yarn was a single, but it was one of my beginner yarns, and I think I was planning on plying it anyways. So it's got so much twist in it that when I was trying to knit with this really fine single, I didn't notice that it had plied back on itself a little bit. So yeah, now I've got this little bit. I weave it in. I had it woven in, but I pulled it out to show you. So, and here's the other one. And the only difference between these is, let me see, this purple here is the same as this red here from, it was the Luet, Valentine's Day set. That's the one I was talking about. The base yarn that you can see where we've got the light blue, like the striping going on, that was from the handspun yarn that I got at the D-Stash from my guild. And then the blue set has pink mohair, and I think it was Knit Picks Aloft. I'm pretty sure. It wasn't labeled. I just dragged it out of my stash. Has the pink. This one has the white. But otherwise, everything's the same between the two of them. It just slightly different colors. So, really happy with these. They're really warm. And I just keep them with me. And I've never I've never been in temperatures that drop below 10 degrees. Like, I've never been in the single digits that I know of. And yeah, that was new. So these really came in handy. I think I finished them in like 3 days with breaks because I was trying to get other stuff done. But really liked them. I really want to make another pair. And it's only 21 stitches around to make these. You're making them on size 10.5 needles, but they're still super bulky and thick and warm. So I can toss these on over my fingerless gloves. So my hands will still be warm if I need to use my fingers, but I can keep my fingers from falling off in between. So very happy with those. I'll try to link to that Instagram post. She had the whole pattern right there. So yeah, check it out if you're in need of a pair of really quick mittens. So I think that's everything fiber-wise that we've got going on. So if you're just here for the fiber, thank you so much for tuning in. Head on over to the Ravelry group, check out that chatter thread, and definitely join in if you're interested in being a part of the spin-along starting February 1st. And let me know down below, or maybe I'll put a poll in the chatter thread. I think I will. But you can still let me know here on YouTube. But let me know what you think is a fair amount that you should have to spin for a spin-along, or if you should even have a minimum. If you think we should just go for it, then we could do that too. So let me know what you think, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye. But for everyone else, we'll get into life stuff. So, right before Christmas, I started getting sick, and that was right about the time when I was supposed to record again. So I decided to vlog, and I was doing really well. I had, a lot of it may have been about grilled cheese sandwiches, because I had just thrown out my nonstick pan, and I was trying to make them in cast iron, which started disastrously, but improved over time. And I was working on my mittens through most of that too. But right before Christmas, while I was vlogging, we lost Becky. Becky's one of my chickens, and she's the goofy one. She's a little flighty. She doesn't like to be picked up or really be around people, or didn't. And she was the one who would play with Tesla. So he'd come running by and she'd drop her head almost to the ground, and her legs are just spinning all over the place. The salmon flower rolls are just gangly and weird looking when they run, but she would just charge him and then like chase him around. It was definitely play. There was no aggression on either side. So it was really sad. A hawk flew out of the sky, and I think what happened is the hawk, nobody saw it coming. None of the birds. So there was no squawk, no nothing. I was sitting on the couch and I looked outside, and the way that we had things set up, there were cedar trees that we had cut down leaning up against the coop. And it happened on the other side of the coop. So I couldn't see anything that was happening. All I saw was that all of my birds were pressed up against the door to the run. So I thought, I'm sitting in the window. They tend to congregate near where I am. So I didn't think anything of it, and I got up and I went and made some soup. So I get back to the window. It's been a few minutes. They're still there, and they're like walking quietly into the gate. So I go out there to check and see what's happening, and the hawk flew out from behind the coop. So I buried Becky in the garden, and yeah, that was tough. So even though I'm kind of I was very upset at the time, and I'm still upset about it. It was really sad, but it's easier to talk about this way. So we moved the girls underneath the trees. So now, anytime the hawk tries to land, he has to land in a branch. And they've got 3 cedar trees to hide under, and anytime he lands, they have a particular squawk that they make, and I run outside with Tesla and the hawk flies away. So we haven't had any kind of injuries. They are now definitely on the lookout for the hawk. And I think one morning we even had an owl in the tree. We went and chased it off. So this coming spring, we're ordering more chickens. So we're getting 10 roosters. We're getting, all the roosters we're trying to get are very hefty roosters. So we've got 3 different types of Brahmas, I think. And some of the Brahmas can get up to like 13 pounds, sometimes more. Jersey Giants, and maybe there's another breed. I can't remember what it is, but there's 5 breeds altogether. Some of them are similar. Like I think there's like the buff Brahma, the dark Brahma, some other kind of Brahma. But what we're going to do is we're going to raise all 10, and we're going to see which one does the best with the girls. So they're slow growers, so we should be able to, but still they'll be much bigger than the girls. We'll be able to introduce them, give them some time with the girls, and if it doesn't work out, pop them back in with the other roosters, grab another one, toss him in, which it's more complicated than that, but just generally. Yeah, and we'll see who makes it into the coop, and the rest of them may make it into the freezer, unless one of our friends wants one of them as their rooster. So once we have a rooster, he'll be on alert all the time, and he'll keep the girls safe. So that's a good rooster should throw himself in front of any danger and protect the girls, and let them know if there's anyone coming. Like, he shouldn't sacrifice himself for no reason, but if there's like something coming in to attack one of his girls, he should get between it. So we're hoping that'll work out. The big ones are supposed to be less annoying when they crow because it's not so shrill, but we'll see. So we're gonna check that out. It should work out. We're gonna get a couple more girls. We might get a Polish, just some kind of Polish chicken, because they have little like feather afros on top of their heads and they just look goofy. So we're planning on adding just a couple for flair, but most of them for eggs. But we're going in on the order with 2 of our friends, so we'll all have a bunch of chickens all at once, and that'll be fun. So right after that, I got really sick. The sickest I was during Christmas. And when my birthday came on the 27th, I was actually feeling a whole lot better, which was great, because Tim and I like to... Basically, we had about 5 days of Christmas, because we waited... My side of the family waits up really late for Christmas. And so, like, on the 20th, we were all like, where's your Amazon list? I don't know what to get you. And sending gifts. So we just kind of opened the packages as they came in. So we had about 5 days of Christmas, and then a break for the 26th. And then my birthday pretty much ran until New Year's. So that was great. We had a really good time. Tim was off that week, so we got to be together. I've got some ladybugs in my window, if you're hearing buzzing. I don't know what they're doing, but they're making a lot of noise. So yeah, by the time my birthday, we got into the new year, we got into the single digits here in Tennessee, which I don't think is normal. In the 4 years that we've been here, I don't think we've ever been in the single digits. But problem is, we have a well, and we have a well pump, and it's down at the bottom of a hill. So that froze. And the first time, it froze, and then when the temperatures got up above freezing long enough, the water came back on, no problem, everything was good. So we had about a day with water, and then the next day, water went out again. So basically for about a week, we didn't have water, except for that one day in between. And we've got some great friends, so they were able to let us come over and shower, do laundry and stuff like that. Used a lot of bottled water, which I wasn't happy about because I don't like throwing away all those bottles, but we tried to mostly use jugs. Just sometimes we couldn't, sometimes it didn't work out. But the second time the well house thawed, And we had heat tape and everything on there to try and keep things warm. It's just the people who owned the house before us, they made some kind of like intricate, the piping just goes all the way out. So the pipes burst. But luckily it was in a really clear spot, and Tim was able to fix it the next morning. So, I mean, it wasn't exploded for all that long. But we got that fixed. We have water again. We're very happy. And hopefully it doesn't stay below freezing. Typically we have like below freezing at night. But, I mean, it was in the single digits during the day. So, sometimes in the teens, but it was bad. But yeah, we're very happy that the temperatures have warmed up. It's just kind of wet out there now, but the girls are loving it. They're just running around, going through all the leaves and stuff and chewing up everything. So I think that's about it. We did go get our anatomy scan of the pickle the other day, and everything looks good. He's got all his fingers and toes, and so far everything looks normal. He was not in the mood for pictures and was basically face planted down with his hands over his face. So we don't have any good shots of that, but it was fun. And the lady kept trying to like jab him with the ultrasound, like trying to get him to move. And it was kind of like Vernon Dursley with the snake, knocking on it so Dudley could see the snake move. But yeah, he was having none of it. The only time he gets properly active, because I've only just started feeling his kicks, but the only time he gets properly active is when the cat's sitting on my stomach purring, at which point he goes like full martial arts and tries to like climb out of my stomach to attack the cat. So I'm not sure if he's just enjoying the purring or if he's trying to kill the cat, but it's fun either way. But yeah, that's everything for this episode. Head on over to that thread in the Ravelry group down the Hobbit Hole, and you'll find that link down below. And if you're going to take part, definitely show us what you're going to be making, and let me know your preferences for yarn weight requirements for the yarn, whether or not we should have them, or what you think a good weight would be per entry, because you can enter more than once in a month. So yeah, let me know, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and happy making. This is my Ladybug Rehabilitation Center. It is a spinach leaf covered in water. So I keep finding these little guys around the house, and as soon as I get them some water, they stop freaking out. So they will live here for a little while and then go hide in the corners again. But yay! Ladybugs!